Well, as we discussed last night, I was very disappointed that he didn't do what needs to be done. And what he needs to do is recognize this is a military national emergency on our southern border. And he needs to directly draw a parallel to the precedent of President Wilson in 1916, sending the U.S. Army across the border into Mexico to go chase down Pancho Villa and his bandits. The U.S. military was stationed all along the border in Texas. This is after Texas statehood, long after the Civil War, long after Posse Comitatus. None of that impacts national security when it comes to using the U.S. military to repel an invasion. And so the president should just focus directly on that precedent and say, look, under the constitutional authority I have as commander in chief, I am authorized to repel invasions, to suppress insurrections, and execute the laws of the Union. And I can use the U.S. military to do so as commander in chief. He needs to turn to his Defense Department and give out the order to go and deploy the military on the border in force, not in a support role, not here and there, but en masse, as was done by Wilson in reaction to Pancho Villa. He sent an expeditionary force in a punitive expedition into Mexico to go take it to the bandits. And today we're in the same situation again. You have, in that situation, you had Pancho Villa and his men who controlled northern Mexico. They were the de facto rulers of northern Mexico in a civil war against the Mexican government, against Mexico City. And they didn't wait for Mexico City's permission. Wilson sent the troops across the border. He didn't wait for Congress's permission or authority. He just did it as the commander in chief in an obvious constitutional response to an invasion and murder of American citizens. And we see it already in Europe. It's as you said earlier, this is the globalist plan to flood the first world with the third world and swamp it and and destroy it and take it down to third world level. And that's what they're doing to us. But it's also a humanitarian crisis for the people being brought across. There's been well documented over the mainstream media for many years of the sad tale of young girls underage being kidnapped, beaten, and raped, and smuggled into the U.S. and forced to be prostitutes in the sex slavery for the illegal migrant workers. They go to these fields and they have to service 30 men at a time every day. They're being tortured every day sexually in the United States, brought from Mexico. So he should take a page out of Ross Perot's book and get up in front of do a press conference in front of the country and put it up on a big screen. All of the mainstream media reports and interviews of women being sex trafficked when they were children, brought across the country, finally freed and then interviewed. They're all over the place. He should lay them all out. He should show pictures of all the murders that happen both inside Mexico and inside the United States by the cartels and the drug gangs that run the border. And when he goes down to the border tomorrow, he should go to McAllen, Texas. He should go down to Laredo. He should go where, we did a flyover with your crew. Your cameraman came along with me and flew over the Rio Grande. It's wide open. You still have that footage. There's no fence there. There was no Border Patrol for miles. We flew for about 45 minutes before we saw one Border Patrol truck. And that's because there's not enough of them down there. And then we did boots on the ground walking along the Rio Grande. You wouldn't even know it's a border. There's nothing to indicate any kind of international border whatsoever. And we were there for about 45 minutes, me and a Marine Corps veteran who lives there, before we saw any Border Patrol agents. They were just not there because there's not enough of them. And so they bring drugs, they bring weapons, they bring women and children for sex slavery, they bring across terrorists. I mean, anything that they want to bring comes across. And the cartels control that border. They control both sides of it. The gangs on the U.S. side who work for the cartels, some of them American citizens, others of them illegal aliens, are the ones who distribute the drugs and take them up to Chicago for the cartels. And on the Mexican side, it's bloodthirsty cartels themselves. So they control the border right now. You're already being invaded and occupied. And you have corrupt sheriffs down there and police chiefs and city council members who are in the back pocket of the cartel because it's a standard drill, either plato or plomo, either silver or lead. You take their money or they kill you. That's what's happening inside the U.S. as it does in Mexico. There is no border. That's why you should just take the time to do a press conference where he lays it all out there using their own reports, Amnesty International's reports, the UN's reports, documented government reports about the reality on the border. Here are the facts. I mean, the webpage they have up about border facts is pretty good, but he needs to get up there in front of the people and show it to the people. And then he needs to point out that Wilson did this. Here's Black Jack Pershing in Mexico chasing down Pancho Villa. Here's why this is perfectly constitutional. And in fact, my duty as the president of the United States to use the military to do this. And then he needs to go ahead and just do it right there from the stage and get it done. So that's what he has to do. He has to man up. I mean, and I want to kind of refer back to what you were saying earlier, that it's part of their program to make us all despair and give up. And obviously they're doing that to him as well. That's why it's so important for us to make sure that we stand up and let our voices be heard, and we go put our boots on the ground in DC, calling on the president to man up. We got to man up too. Yeah, and the best response is to go and man up, take your testosterone pills, lift some weights, go run some sprints up a hill, go learn how to fight and man up, lose some weight. This last year I lost 40 pounds, got my fat ass back in shape. And that's what we all need to do, is just man up and see our responsibility as individuals to make sure that we do what we have to do. And they're telling you what they don't want you to do. They don't want you to be a man anymore. So be a man. But we also need to push the president. We need to make sure we don't give him a pass from what he did last night. Don't say, well, it's not his fault. He's surrounded by whatever, enemies, and they're in his ear, et cetera, et cetera. He's responsible. He needs to accept responsibility. Every one of us is responsible for what we do. And he's responsible also. I don't care what threats they're doing against his family or anything else. He swore that oath. Once he swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution, he's on the hook. He's on the hook from now on. And all he can do is do his duty. So all we can do too. Well, what he could do is take a page out of Wilson's book and just deploy the military on the border. I'm not talking about support. I'm talking about line infantry units, Marine Corps and Army on the border patrol it. And I've talked to a very experienced Border Patrol agent just yesterday, in fact, who said that a precedent for it, they did back in, it was called Operation Gatekeeper in the 90s, where the Border Patrol beefed up from 500 men in the San Diego sector to 5,000, and they locked up the border there. And they did it with a layered system of a border barrier, a steel fence, the matting they used, and they put behind that a road that could be easily, checked for footprints, and they drag and make it clean again and make it check for footprints, and then a fence, and then behind that another blank area, then another fence. Then they had quick reaction teams that would then respond in case anyone made it through all three fences. That's what it takes, is a layered system. With the military, you could easily do it with U.S. military troops on the border now, and locking it up in a layered system of quick reaction forces in helicopters, in trucks, and on foot. And then you can also use the Army Corps of Engineers to build the barriers. Well, actually, I think the day-to-day grind across the entire border is already overwhelming the Border Patrol. There's simply not enough of them. And they have cameras along the McAllen sector, Laredo sector. They've got, long, tall poles with cameras on them. But they don't have enough men to react. It doesn't make a difference how many cameras you have, or how many blimps or drones. You got to have enough men to react to go actually interdict. And that's what they're missing, is the manpower, which you could easily do. The 101st Airborne could go down there with their helicopters and be a QRF force. The U.S. Marine Corps could go down there and very easily interdict with enough manpower. And frankly, what I think Trump should do is deploy the military into Mexico. He should point out that Mexico does not control its border any longer. The cartels.
It's a failed state. So what, move them in 10 miles, 20 miles?
Yeah, 10 or 20 miles. Go in after the cartels.
Seize all the major roads, wipe out all the cartels. No, I agree. That's what Blackjack did. It needs to be done.
He did. Go down there and take it to the cartels. Clean them out.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. InfoWars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by InfoWars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.